Welcome back. Janet Whitmire is still here, but joining us now is host and expert guest Lisa Sather. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Beth. Same to you.
So I know you're passionate about medication and medication safety, but what else have we talked about in the past year that really stands out to you?
Yeah, I think heart disease is a big one because it is a leading cause of death in the United States. So I think we should revisit that.
Perfect. Let's do that right now.
So a heart attack is when there's an interruption of the blood supply to the heart muscle. The heart muscle at that point will start to die. People can have heart attacks and not even know it. So they will lose a small portion of their heart muscle and actually survive and go on to do other things. Sometimes, however, when a portion of the heart muscle dies, it again causes the electrical instability, which causes the heart to fibrillate and stop, which is called a cardiac arrest. So the heart can fibrillate and stop due to electrical problems and not due to a loss of blood supply, a heart attack. So you can have a cardiac arrest without a heart attack, and you can have a heart attack without a cardiac arrest, but sometimes the two go together. One is electrical, the cardiac arrest, and one is more of a plumbing issue, the heart attack.
Women are more likely to have a stroke, and some of that correlation is with age. Women tend to live longer than men, so we have a higher incidence of stroke. But the risk factors for heart attack or stroke are really the same for men and women. And I think it's important, Doug had said, about calling 911, but the other thing for prevention in regards to stroke or heart attack is seeing your primary care provider on a regular basis so you can identify risk factors, whether you're a woman or a man, and treat risk factors to prevent a stroke or heart attack from happening. So whether that be if you're diabetic or have high cholesterol, overweight, things like that, I think prevention is key to prevent people from ending up in the ER.
Okay.
So.
Stress management is huge. I mean, there's a lot of studies that show those type A people are more prone to cardiovascular disease. So techniques, they're doing a lot of studies with meditation to improve cardiovascular outcomes. Yoga, exercise, laughter, taking a hot bath, just if you have a situation in your life that's causing you stress, find ways to mitigate it.
Well, one of the things that I think is the most important for everyone is to listen to your body, to really listen to it. Like, what does it need? Does it need exercise? Does it need healthy food? How is your weight? I cannot stress enough that most of the reduction that we see in heart disease is due to the prevention and the main risk factors, which is don't smoke, maintain your ideal body weight, exercise regularly. We recommend 150 minutes of aerobic exercise each week. Eat lots of vegetables and fruits. Try to limit your carbohydrates. Those kinds of things really will help people if they're serious about reducing their risk for heart disease.
Doing what we can for heart health is really important, Lisa, so thank you so much for bringing that one up. Janet, how about you? Do you have another topic we should revisit?
Well, I think prevention in general is just really important, and I think there's some steps that we can do to stay healthy, like vaccinations.
You're right. Let's take a look at what we learned about immunizations in the past year.
Approximately 50 to 70,000 adults die each year just from complications related to the flu and pneumonia. And that number could be drastically reduced if everyone would get vaccinated. So that's really important. Based on policies developed by expert groups like the CDC, it is recommended that all healthy adults do get vaccinated. And especially those who have chronic conditions, it's really important because they can really suffer from consequences from getting one of these vaccine preventable illnesses.
By the time we got to 2000, the average life expectancy in the United States was 78.1 years. You have this huge increase, and you think about, well, that's because all these things that happen in medicine. We got antibiotics, we could do better surgeries, we have insulin now that wasn't around beforehand. But actually, when you look at the data and everything, about 25 of those years are due to public health. And the CDC put out this great, CDC is Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, put out this great tribute at the end of last century called the 10 Greatest Public Health Interventions in the last century, and that had the effect on that. And vaccines is one of those. It's a big one in there.
The flu is a very smart virus, and it keeps changing, and so we need to keep adjusting the vaccine to so that it will work each year.
Really, there are folks who are at risk for getting higher complications from the flu, folks that are 65 and older, the very young, and those with specific health conditions like diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, those kinds of things really are at greater risk, and you want to make sure you get vaccinated.
They will not get the flu from the vaccine. It is an inactivated vaccine, and you cannot get flu from the vaccine. There are some side effects. You can have a sore arm and maybe get a little bit of a fever, but you will not get the flu from the vaccine.
And there was Lisa again as an expert guest. Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely.
Okay, ladies, last chance. Any other topic you want to do for end of year?
Well, I think that we think of our home as a place of safety, but really there can be risks there.
Yes, I think clutter in the house is an important topic to look at, decluttering to reduce fall risk.
And for our physical as well as mental health.
Good point.
Great, ladies. Let's take a look at what we did on home safety.
So in your bathroom, make sure that you have something to absorb any of the water that comes from your shower or your tub. Make sure that you have handholds, especially getting into a tub shower combination, because that can, when you're on one foot, that can be disastrous. So make sure you have something to brace yourself with. And also in the tub itself, if you get any kind of oil or anything in a bathtub, it becomes an ice rink. So make sure that you have some kind of an adhesive attachment in the tub that will help from slipping as you're taking your shower or your bath.
Well, keep the house as clean as possible. Of course, and they probably know whether or not they want to know or want to think about it. They might be allergic to their animals or not. And so minimizing exposure to the animals that they may have in their house also is useful. Keeping the house as clean as possible. Keeping the animals out of your bedroom. You spend 8 hours a day or more in your bedroom. And so that's 8 hours that you could have as a clean space for you if you can keep the animals out of there if you're allergic to the animals. Okay. Also changing your sheets often, vacuuming frequently, using a HEPA filter, using an air freshener in your house. It helps if you know what you're allergic to as well. So if you've seen an allergist and you've been tested and you know that you're allergic to dust mites but not your dog, then that's useful because you know how to treat that in your house differently than somebody that doesn't know what they're allergic to.
But there are other issues in your home. Keep it well lit. Make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, especially at night. A person, as they age in particular, can become very disoriented. In fact, it happened to my mother. About 5 years ago, my mother became disoriented at home, and she actually fell down about 15 stairs into our basement, which is concrete. She fractured her hip. Luckily, she had a life alert or some kind of a mechanism on that alerted the fire department, and they were able to come over and break down her door and bring her to the hospital for treatment, but it could have been tragic.
You can imagine how stressful it must be, more so for some people than others. And you might have poor eating habits. If your kitchen counters are full of clutter, of course, there's no place to fix food. You might just microwave everything. Mm-hmm. And poor mental health. And of course, my favorite is chaos, creates chaos, can't have anyone over syndrome. And this just means you're afraid to open up the front door to anyone. You live in fear that somebody's going to drop by.
You know, I think the biggest thing is if you feel like your stuff is weighing on you, it is very true. If you are overwhelmed by your stuff, that's a true feeling, and it really does a great thing for your health to be able to live in a clean, decluttered environment.
Coming up next, we'll wrap up our special year in review edition of Healthy Living for Life. Stay with us.